This is a questionable reality production. Hello, I'm Xander Crowns, and this is AP Post History. Now let's get started. Today we'll be covering topic 2.3, the rise of the Salmonites. And whether you like them or resent them, the Salmonites will be the focus of the rest of this unit, and even a little bit of the next. So you better buckle up, because this will be a long, salmon-filled trip. And maybe you should count how many times I have to mention salmon, and thus being one of the true curses of the Salmonites. The Salmonites came into existence out of the collapse of the regional power, the Maple Regency. This was another one of those gimmicky tribes, and their gimmick was, of course, that they drank exclusively maple syrup, or something like that. It is quite weird. The Regency had come to control some portion of Alaska, inhabited by small, seemingly inconsequential people, and naturally, as any power does, they enslaved these seemingly inconsequential people. However, among these people was a young boy named Capistranus, who did not like being a slave and had an odd, deep affection for, wait for it, salmon. In his time of enslavement, he constructed an odd belief that the salmoning was some type of student protest against aura imbalances gone wrong. Yes, I meant to say a student protest. We really can't control what weird ideas the people who control us think, but such is such. And thus Capistranus, this leader who would be one of the great men of this unit, believed salmon spent time at a rough and tumble, but ultimately enriching university known as Korata U, home to the fighting humans. Interestingly, to address this imbalance that caused the protest to begin with, people only needed to follow Capistranus' directions. It's all so simple, isn't it? Which was aided by the fact that he was predictably charismatic. And what would people not do for someone with an ounce of charisma? Thus he was able to quickly organize a slave revolt and overthrow the Maple Regency. And he did in a brilliant military campaign with such extreme brilliance that future leaders would endlessly gush over it and of course model their campaigns and military thinking on the same type of thinking Capistranus used. This founding date of the Salmonites is largely unknown and kind of lost to post-history, but most post-historians think that it occurred in the year 1030 to 1065 PQS. The next step Capistranus took was vital. You see, rather than enslaving his enslavers, he integrated them into his new kingdom, and thus the Salmonites hatched out from their egg. But that warlust was infectious, and Capistranus soon fell under its complete control. And so upon hearing the word of the Chinook Basin down south, and the much better weather than in Alaska, Capistranus prepared his men and marched out from their Alaskan homeland. This march, known as the Salmon Run, saw the Salmonites encounter several tribes, and each tribe was given a simple ultimatum: join, die, or at least move out of the way. He would make a great many allies on his salmon run, and an even greater amount of followers. This was in part benefited that he suddenly now was claiming that he had special powers to prevent the next salmoning, that he could farther halt the rise of the Black Seas, a made-up problem, and was himself a conduit of all salmon. In fact, at one point he claimed to be a salmon that was transfigured into the form of a human. After a year of marching, Capistranus and his armies arrived at the Chinook Basin, and as he gazed down below, this is what he said. By the way, we're going to the History Maker segment. Wow, it's big. Disappointed at this response, one of his lieutenants prompted him to say something a bit more inspiring and quotable. Thus, next Capistranus said, it needs more salmon. He wasted no time conquering the basin, with his soldiers drawing their salmon swords and donning their salmon armor, and these really were built from the remains of salmon. The salmon horde, as they would be called, was near unstoppable in its power and conquest, and soon their war cry sounded through the ears of children. always representing approaching doom. Interestingly, this war cry sounded a bit like a person gargling water and then a deep breathing noise. Kind of weird, but it was very frightening. Few of the settlers were organized enough to defend their claims, and even more bacteria found their homes taken. Capistranus was such a brilliant leader and strategist that by the year 1072 PQS, the Salmonites controlled the entire basin and had conquered several other tribes and now stood at the gates of southern elongated Arizona, who in the coming years would become their arch nemesis. One of Capistranus' most famous military ventures was the War of the Long Pass, where the entire Geometron army, a society founded on the supreme power of math, was drowned in a canyon when Capistranus blew the wall out by hitting it aggressively with a salmon. And thus the Salmonites established themselves as the dominant power in this brave new world. And that's it. Topic 3 of Unit 2 is complete. If you want to find success in your post-history class and think Capistranus is a transfigured salmon, consider subscribing and liking this video. My goal is to see each and every one of you get a 92 in your class and a 7 on the AP exam in Quintober. Alright, Xander Crowns, checking out.